Ladies and gentlemen, AFL fans of all stripes, buckle up. Kane Cornes has just released his top 50 players in 2025. And to put it lightly, the reaction has been wild. Some fans are outraged, others they just think he's trolling. But is it a little bit more deeper than that? The data doesn't quite back him up, but as always, opinion pieces don't require data. They just need a little bit of brainwaves in between the ears. Today, we're going to break down his 50, the biggest snubs, and whether or not Kane's list actually holds up to what we know. So grab yourself a drink, hit that like button, and let's get straight into it. Alright, so let's start off with the facts. This is Kane Cornes' official top 50 list for 2025. And while some of it makes sense, there are some choices that the partial football observer will be a little bit confused about. At the top, you have some undeniable names. Nick Dacos, Bontempelli, Petrarca, Patrick Cripps. No one's really out arguing about these guys being the best of the best. You may have different order, but you would say that the top 10 names, give or take a 2 or 3 names, would be who we'd all say would be the top 10 players. But then things start to get a little bit weird. Harry Shizo, an incredible player, but if you're having Nick Dacos at numero uno, surely Shizo, who almost in metrics is identical, albeit are you counting flags won as a metric? I don't think you can when you're doing best players. It's individual, it's not team awards. But then you look at Jake Waterman, sneaking in at 32, terrific year last year, but no Harry Mackay. Harris Andrews, Zach Merritt, they're quite low down for 2 players that are deemed some of the best in their position. Jason Horne-Francis at 20, Shizo at 28, but then you've got Errol Goulding at number 12. Does Errol Goulding, although a terrific player and probably one of the best players in his role on the wing in the comp, is he that high and that far ahead of these two? Now, as soon as the list dropped, like all opinion pieces, AFL fans either went in full tinfoil hat mode and said this is a conspiracy, they're out to get us, or just genuinely hated it and dusted off the torch and set a fire and marched down AFL House. People calling the list one of the worst they've ever seen, I think is a little bit harsh. And then some people just genuinely tagging their mate like they did me and going, no Harry Pon. Omissions that make no sense if we break them down, right? These are the most common complaints. The big one for me as well is Clayton Oliver. Okay, he had a poor year last year, right? But he's still in the top 50 just for having one dicky year. How low down he's got players like James Sicily when he's a multiple All-Australian, one of the best intercept markers. And then you've got like the addition of some players that make no sense. Alir at 42, no offence to him, but you're telling me Alir is a better footballer than Harry Mackay. You need your bumps feeling. While ignoring players that have had far strong seasons. So, I mean, the problem with these opinion pieces is you've got to have a metric that we kind of understand. Because then there is some ones where there is strange love for players that make no sense. Now, Sam Darcy is incredibly high up. Now, no doubt about Sam Darcy, his talent could be huge and he could be a top 25 player as he's been named in here. But when you're omitting forwards that have consistently been better than him over a staggering period of time, I think that's a little bit bizarre. And Kane does have a history of these contrarian takes, if you will. Let's not forget this is the same bloke that when Tim Taranto signed for Richmond, Kane Cornes said he isn't in the top 150 AFL players currently, which is almost like the top 10's best 22, almost give or take. It was an incredibly harsh take, so we know Kane Cornes likes stirring the pot, and it makes us do things like this, turn the camera on and talk about it, which is good, because discussion is the spice of life. So let's get serious and look at some cold, hard facts, if you will. If we take a metric that we really do understand and that we genuinely do give a lot of time to, that's the Champs Data ratings. And of the players that are missing there who are in the top 20, Tristan Xerri would definitely ring a bell for most people there. Jack Steele's another one. James Rowbottom's another one that was in there. And Jared Witt. Now, there's only one ruckman in this top 50, Max Gawn, incidentally, who plays full-time ruck. I would say that top 50 players, you would have to be looking at Tristan Xerri for his year last year if we are basing it on the same criteria that I presume Darcy's got in there. It's a fascinating one. When you look at this as well, Clayton Oliver for me has been arguably one of the most top consistent contested ball winners in the league. He's just behind players like Cripps and Bontempelli for their metrics. And to not have him in the top 50, but you've got Zach Merritt in there, who I do incredibly rate as well, I do think that's a little bit of a scorn. I think if you're having a list and it includes Patrick Dangerfield, then you have to include Scott Pendlebury, who has probably been top 50 players for the last decade. Then you've got Sam Walsh, very low down, but Connor Rozee above him. Now, I know that there's a pre-agenda. Connor Rozee and Sam Walsh are Kane Cornes' go-to arguments. My issue is, though, that if you are then basing it on Nick Dacos is number one because he's won a flag, you've also got to take into account that Sam Walsh is a Gary Ayres medalist for his best finals run, which is also the brush that he tars Charlie Curnow with for his lack of effort in finals. So it kind of is a contradiction of terms because Sam Walsh is one of the highest rated players. Now, I'm not saying that as a Carlton fan. I also think that if you are making some arguments, you could throw in players like Josh Kelly, who hasn't been phenomenal. You could also throw in players like Sam Flanders, who, if you're basing it on last year, had a real coming of age. And then if you're doing that, you also understand why Jake Waterman's there, but you don't understand why he's had a good year and he's there, but then players who had a great 2024 are in there. Like Jake Waterman, as much as I love him, he's an All-Australian. He's definitely in that 50 mark for last year. Is he that high up? Is he that better than Harry Mackay, who has won a Coleman medal and finished quite high up, even in his worst year that he's had? So does it actually stack up with the general consensus? If we highlight the general consensus and the output from many footy analysis, Clayton Oliver is often featured in the top 20 of these things. Another one that is a surprise is Nick Blakey as well. He's an incredible player, but would you say that this stacks up with the best players in the league? It's interesting. If you look at the All-Australian based on this, for last year, you would have Braden Maynard, who is a surprise in that top 50, Wheater-in McGovern, Blakey, Taylor, Stewart, Golden, Bontempelli, Butters, Petrarca, Cameron, Jason Horne-Francis, Toby Green, Curnow, Hogan, Gawn, Dacos, Heaney, Cripps, Neil, Warner and Sarong. Now, it's midfield heavy, very, very midfield heavy, which is what it is. I mean, it is a solid opinion piece. I think that there's only probably maybe 10 or 15 names you would change out of this top 50. But let's get to it. Is the top 50 legit, or is he just messing with us? Kane Cornes isn't an idiot. For me, he's one of the best journalists in the game because he gets these discussions going. And I feel like we get into a situation as people that we have to criticise what we don't agree with as opposed to argue it and maybe learn something from it. It feels it was stirred controversy, that was the idea, and not to reflect them, but he has defended his fix, saying stats don't tell the whole story, which as a stat man myself, I couldn't agree with it. So you've got to, though, I think, when you have these opinion pieces, have a criteria that we can means test. Because if you're just plucking them out of thin air, it creates the controversy. If it's not stats-based, what's it based on? If it's not about achievements, what are we looking for? And if every other expert disagrees with you, what is your counter-argument to suggest why you've got Darcy so high up? So now what I'd really love to hear from Kane Cornes, I'd love to have this in a segment because I think this is a great discussion. My 50 is totally different to this. So I want your 50. You drop me 5 names that you think should be in a 50 and explain why. And if you enjoyed this video, please smash the like button and subscribe. And if you do want me to do a top 50, I'm more than happy to do that because I do feel that if we are being fair, we should share our ideals. Let me know what you'd like to do in the comments. I'll see you tonight on the live stream. Pom out.